Dihybrid Punnett squares. We use these when we're looking at the inheritance of two traits. Let's look at an example. In this example, the trait for dimples is dominant, while the trait for no dimples is recessive. The trait for blue eyes is recessive, while the trait for brown eyes is dominant. If we have a mother who's heterozygous for both eye color and dimples, it means that she has both a dominant and recessive allele for both traits. A homozygous recessive father means that the individual has two recessive alleles for both traits. Homozygous meaning the same, so homozygous recessive means two of the same recessive alleles. This means that the mother's genotype would look like this: an uppercase, lowercase, uppercase, lowercase. While the father's genotype is all lowercase because they are all recessive alleles. This means that the mother can produce 4 possible gametes. So they can pass on 4 different combinations of their alleles. So all uppercase, all lowercase, or a combination of upper and lowercase. So all dominant, all recessive, or a combination of dominant and recessive for these two traits which we're looking at. The father, however, can only produce one type of gamete because he only has recessive alleles to pass on. The next step is to then fill this into a larger Punnett square. So in this case, it would look like this. So the mother's possible gametes have gone on the left, while the father's has gone on the top. We only use one column because he only has one type of gamete he can pass on. So we can get rid of the extra rows. We end up with the possible offspring having these possible genotypes. The trait for dimples is dominant to no dimples, and the trait for blue eyes is recessive to brown eyes. So it produces 4 possible phenotypes. Phenotypes is the physical expression of the trait. So what does the individual actually end up looking like? What are the traits that they have? These are the 4 possible phenotypes, along with the genotypes that code for each of these traits. So for example, to have dimples and blue eyes, so the phenotype being dimples and blue eyes, the possible genotypes that you could have for this is a capital D, lowercase d, and 2 lowercase b's, as well as 2 uppercase d's with 2 lowercase b's. So these are the genotypes. This means that we end up with a 1:1:1:1 ratio of the 4 possible phenotypes. This is all based on probability. So there is a 1 in 4 chance that an individual would be produced to have dimples and brown eyes. Let's look at a second example. This time, pause the video after you've read the instructions and work out the Punnett square for yourself. Pause the video now and see if you can predict the possible phenotype and genotype ratios. Alright, let's check. The mother and father have the same genotypes. That means they can produce 4 possible gametes. Next, we insert these possible gametes into the Punnett square. At this stage, we're using all of the columns because each parent produces 4 potential types of gametes. We then look at how these combine to produce the potential offspring. The 4 possible phenotypes are listed below: blue skin metallic fins, blue skin dull fins, pink skin, metallic fins, and pink skin with dull fins, along with the possible genotypes. When we look at the Punnett square, everywhere that has a capital B is blue skin, whereas everywhere that has a capital M are metallic fins. When we look at it together, it produces a 9:3:3:1 phenotype ratio. You can see which genotypes code for which phenotypes and result in what ratio.